Jake, and Jake was found in Marks and Spencer's shop instead of attending to Akufo-Addo and giving him all the necessary help that he needs. I don't think this is something we need to celebrate over. I mean, we don't care whether he's back or not, really. It doesn't change anything within the political atmosphere in Ghana. Also, another one on the New Statesman this morning about some government communication team reshuffle and a whole lot of propaganda embedded within the article. My guest will tell you all about it, and quickly we'll move to the substantive issue before us tonight. I've been joined in the studio by Prince Derek Ejie, the Deputy Coordinator of the National Youth Authority, who is Mr. Document in the Making. I'm sure you see before him lots of big files containing very sensitive documents. Also in the studio is the Editor-in-Chief of the Ghanaian newspaper, Kobi Fiagbe, also in the studio with us to do justice to the topic. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. Prince, quickly on this, you both are members of government communication team. I don't get it. This new reshuffle regarding government communication team purported to have been done by Felix, Deputy Information Minister. Is there any truth in that?
Well, good evening first to your viewers and our listeners on radio. I believe this rebroadcast on radio. And other stations do correct. Yeah. So I think multimedia is doing quite well, and we must commend them. I think that it's obvious the kind of desperation in the NPP camp, and you would expect that the Statesman, which is owned by Akufo-Addo originally, would have dedicated today to his comeback from London, where he went to seek medical treatment. But obviously that is not making the waves. So they want to have a diversion using the government communication team. Yes, indeed, there's a government communication team, and we've listened to the Deputy Minister debunk this story. And I think that's useful at this point to indicate that, yes, indeed, there's a government communication team that's supposed to communicate issues on the government's activities and so on. It is not a propaganda wing of either the NDC or government. And I think it's important to note also that it has a lot of very seasoned persons from the various sectors and media, among others. And they're very happy doing a fine job. It's important also to indicate that there's no truth whatsoever in what the NPP tries to put out. Of course, every system is dynamic, and so at any point in time, the minister and his deputies may determine the direction of the group. And so I think that we should just, ignore Gabi, his statesman, Akufo-Addo, his statesman, and whoever else owns it. Yeah, basically, I think we should just put it where it belongs and let's go to the real issues that confront the people of Ghana.
Kobi, your take on that quickly.
Well, two issues come up. Membership of the government communication team and also supposed feud or death war between, what's the name, Felix and Murtala. Now let me deal quickly with the membership of the thing. First of all, nobody is born as a government communicator. You understand? And government reserves the right to decide who its communicators are. So to the extent that today government finds you worthy of communicating its policies and programs, well, you will be part of it. Tomorrow they find that you may not be useful for the time being, and it's happened several times over. I mean, the last 4 years, there are several meetings that some of us have not been invited to because if you think that you own a right to be in that meeting, no, somebody decides this is what I want to do at this time and this. Except that I also would urge that whatever reshuffle or repositioning or realignment is going on will be done in such a way that obvious hurt feelings will not be engineered or pricked, that kind of thing. Now, on the issue of Felix and Murtala, it is the most laughable part of the whole publication because, seriously speaking, I have seen Murtala and Felix work in tandem as a team, and you know how we operate, and there is no reason for any I am the boss or I'm the no. We work as a team, and that's how it is. So as far as I'm concerned, I believe that the statesman might have picked one or two things and then added their own fertile imagination to create a certain storm in the teacup. And to the extent that the ministers themselves are not bothered by it, because seriously speaking, but for their maturity, this could spark a certain schism between them. Okay. Were you the one who planted the story? Yeah. Were you the one who got these people to plant the story against me? Why you understand? If that was the objective, it's failed.
It's a common thing in politics. Yeah.
Well,
having some of the media houses
really,
trying to.
But you see,
put your heads together.
You should be able to read the people you are dealing with and their maturity levels. These are very matured guys who are calm. They don't rush to decision. And however young they may be, they are really, really mature in terms of their specialties and all that. You understand? So, for me, I'll just say that let's ignore the statesman. Okay. It's okay. It's important that we have all shades of opinion and all shades of political things in the fray, so that we will not be fed with monotony. But there are times that we need to just rise above them and ignore them and move on. And this is one of those times, and move on. So as far as I'm concerned, the work of Felix Ayariga and Mutala will speak for itself in the long run. Okay,
thank you for your views. Prince, now to the issues of the Supreme Court case regarding the Waterville rule upon quite recently. And it has since been seen as a victory chalked by Martin Amidu. And yet many have asked questions regarding the non-inclusion of, for instance, Shanghai, a company that clearly is on record to have skipped both parliamentary approval and the procurement processes. Yet we also had Kukubaku defending to the hilt that there was some contractual agreement somewhere along the line that looks to have, gone through Parliament, and therefore the argument is a non-starter.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, 1 hour will not allow us time to go through all these documentation.
Okay.
There's enough documentation on everything in Ghana today.
Okay.
And those documents are available to almost everybody. Fortunately, very soon, the Freedom of Information bill will be laid and passed, hopefully, and the President has already indicated that as soon as it is passed, the day it lands on the table, he will give his assent, and so anybody can walk and get any information. So it will not be a preserve of people like Kwekubaku to come and, as it were, bamboozle people with, I have the documents so on. I think that Kwekubaku made a fundamental mistake where he thinks, for example, that the Barclays loan, which was contracted for the stadium renovation prior to the CAN 2008, was the, work of Parliament, and therefore Shanghai has been covered. But he must note also that there are two different things. There's a loan agreement and there's a contract issue. You understand? And I think that whilst that loan that was contracted by the government of Ghana was done not in the name of Shanghai, it cannot be purported to have been an operation of the Shanghai people who were discovered by His Excellency, former President Kufuor. And I think that before we go very far, we need to put things in chronological order so that listeners and viewers can better appreciate the issue, even though we assume to a large extent that with a lot of information out there, people have the information, but it must be put in the proper order. Now, you hear about names like Shanghai, you hear about names like Waterville, etc., 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 and you are not too sure if it's the same case. It is indeed the same case. There's one big, issue at stake, and that has to do with Ghana's bid to host a tournament. Ghana did not have enough facilities at the time, namely stadia, and therefore the Kufuor administration, which was then the government of the day, took upon itself the challenge and actually did a very good job in ensuring that we had the Accra Sports Stadium, the Kumasi Sports Stadium, and so on, including the Tamale Sports Stadium, and some hostels and so on that unfortunately they could not manage very well. In the course of doing this good job, otherwise good job, a lot of problems happened. Now the first problem was to go through the due process to get companies to do this. The first company that scaled the fence, among other companies, was the Waterville group. And I believe that we've heard of names like Austro Invest, we've heard of names like Woyome, we've heard of names like Micheletti, Vamed, and so on. It is the same mix. Okay. Now, in this arrangement, they went through, there was a competitive bid process. And so other companies bid for, the opportunity to do that. And Waterville, that group that included Woyome and Vamed and so on, and Austro Invest and so on, were the ones who made it. In fact, they scaled all the various levels of hurdles that you need to, go over in order to get a, contract. And they went as far as getting the Bank of Ghana, the Ministry of Finance, and so on, to give their assent. In fact, they went through everything. So at that point, you ask yourself, and today we are being told that they have no offices and so on. At that time, was the proper due diligence done? But again, you would want to forgive the MPP because they have a history. They've gone to hair salons to procure loans before. So if they didn't do good, yes, the CNTI loan that Kukubaku put his credibility on and said that if it turned out to be this and then he would, whatever. Well, it happened. Now, after all of that had been done, one aspect of the contract included financing. And that's where the Woyome angle came in. Woyome was supposed to be a financial engineer for the process. For one of the arms of that deal. And ordinarily, he would have been entitled to something if he had brought some money. What's in doubt is whether he brought any money or whether he didn't bring any money. And I don't want to go into those sides because it's a subject matter before the courts. But what is now conclusive is the fact that Waterville went very far, but they were jettisoned. Their contract was abrogated, and I'm saying their contract was abrogated because they had a contract. Now, you can have various kinds of contracts or agreements. They are verbal, they are non-verbal, and so on. The first one, that's the written documentation, which O.B. Amwa signed on behalf of His Excellency Osafo Mafo, gave them the authorization to go and demolish. In fact, they were to mobilize and go to site. To do what? To work. And they went ahead and demolished. The good news is that the courts of Ghana have determined that no matter what you do, if you do not follow due process, whatever you do is null and void. In any case, they demolished, but because it was a foreign company, that's what they did should have actually come before Parliament. Because at the end of the day, the executive, in fact, for me, I think that Ghana has shown that it's really matured and that there's really separation of powers. The executive branch is there in continuity, whether it's NDC, MPP, CPP, PNC, it's the government of Ghana, regardless of who is administering the government. And so if you do not do the right thing, you cannot come back and say because it was MPP or because it was NDC or because it was this, I will not continue. You first have to do what the government has to do and draw attention to the errors so it's corrected by the system. Okay. Now, one of the things that MPP failed to do, and I think that's been very well highlighted, and I'm sure that the question you asked about Shanghai will be very clear now. If I went in without the proper processes in place and demolished, and I think I've done work. Yes, I've done work. But because I don't have the backing of parliamentary approval, I'm not being paid no matter what I have done. That is what the court is saying. So if after demolition, you go in and build without going through the proper parliamentary process, should you be paid?
No, the same thing.
Exactly. So Shanghai went in and built the stadia. We have the stadia today, and they are there to show. Just the same way the stadia was there before it was demolished.
Yes.
Somebody did work in demolition. Somebody has done work in building. The question remains, did Shanghai get parliamentary approval? And I think that Parliament hasn't gone anywhere. Parliament is still here. In fact, today, something significant has happened. The Speaker has asked the first and second deputy speakers, the majority and minority leaders, to form a team to go into issues that relate to foreign companies and contracts and the gaps in the laws of Ghana. I think that it's going to be a very exciting team because you have Martin Odro working with Joe Gatti.
And they were both
had
roles to play
in these judgment debt issues. They have a wealth of knowledge. And you have attorney generals again in the presence of the leader of government business, okay, and also Joe Gatti, and to some extent Martin Odro as a deputy. So again, the AG's department is very well represented in that thing. So that institutional memory is not lost. And I was hoping to hear Chairman Sabunsu say that he will not join that group. Okay. Even though he's a lawyer, I was hoping he would say not. The reason being that Martin...
Is Chairman Sabunsu really a lawyer?
I won't contest that.
It's in doubt.
I won't contest that.
Yeah.
He isn't a lawyer.
He isn't. Yeah, I know he is not.
I think he's an accountant.
Oh, okay, fine. But we are dealing with money, so maybe he'll still be useful. But the point I was making is that principal positions have been taken by MPP.
He has never claimed to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Well, in some circles, I'm sorry.
No, he has never
let me just take that out of it. Fine, but the bottom line...
You meant to say that he wants to pretend.
Oh, no. I think let's be fair. Let's be fair to the minority leader. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that I thought the MPP would take a principal position and say that once Martin Odro, Right Honourable, is a member of this team, they would not be part of that team.
Because indeed,
they are asking for him to resign because of his role in this whole judgment debt issues, forgetting that they sat in Parliament and assented to him being made Right Honourable Deputy Speaker because they had an agenda. They wanted somebody to be second Deputy Speaker. You understand? So I think that MPP's hypocrisy, that one is clear. Now, the other part of this whole thing is that, you see, the Shanghai deal was sole sourced by President Kufuor.
Okay.
After the processes have gone through to its logical conclusion, forget whether some people did not meet some financial arrangement or whatever. Did the Shanghai people bring money? If the Shanghai people brought money which the Waterville people did not bring, then why was it necessary to go for the Barclays loan agreement, which government of Ghana got for
the only reasonable inference will be that they did not bring money.
They did not bring money. In fact, the Shanghai group is no different from the EO group that Kufuor brought for our oil. The Shanghai group is a typical replica of the EO group that President Kufuor brought for our oil, who have 3.5% of our oil.
That's big.
Yes. And Kufuor went to sit on some network in South Africa somewhere and boasted about the fact that he found the oil. Finder's fee is entitled to EO group. So he has it. The 3.5 is his, really. It is his people. In the same way, he went personally to China, saw the Shanghai group, came back and said, hey, stop everything. Shanghai is the way to go. The Chinese. The question has been asked, who brought the Chinese? Kufuor brought the Chinese. Shanghai, where is it? China. No, he brought them, abrogated things, and then Osafo Mahfoud wrote a letter, cabinet memo,
the famous one,
warning them of consequences. And I think that today, if MPP is running away and putting the blame on MPP, why did Osafo Mahfoud write the letter? Was NDC in government? And note, I think that the glory of God is on this country. He gave us Professor Mills. Professor Mills was not just a law lecturer. He was a very, very honest man. He saw through all of this, and what he did indicate was clear. One, let us have a full-scale expose on judgment debts. So what did he do? He put judgment debt as a line item in the budget. All budgets go to Parliament. So the Parliament, who have oversight, who should have seen through all of these errors of foreign companies not being, as it were, given parliamentary approval, Parliament will have the opportunity to look at it clearly. Then also, he asked Iyoko to do the investigation, not on Waterville and Woyome, but on all judgment debts, including the Nana Kweku Bonsu, Kweku Dia, Rockshell, the Rockshell man.
Yeah.
He's in court right now, the Supreme Court, defending the MPP.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He's a lead counsel for, the MPP in the petition.
Oh, you mean Philip Addison? I've been told he's the executive chairman of CP Construction. But
no, Rockshell.
Rockshell. Okay. And that's contrary to the legal ethics.
Well, that one would be for
the general legal counsel might want to take notice of this. It's serious. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you see, he did this, and then what did we see? When Osaf Mafu and others were invited, NPP went to their defense. They stopped the work of IOCO. By now, we would have had the final report of IOCO. So if we don't have a final report, look at NPP. They are the ones who are responsible for that. The last but not the least is that after all of this came President John Dramani Mahama. Even before he promised to have a sole commissioner, even before he had become president number 2 after the transition, in the course of the transition, he implemented that as one of the promises that he was making in his manifesto. He implemented it ahead of being sworn in. That was to show commitment to the cause of getting to the root of judgment debts. What do we have today? We have an attorney general who, before Martin Amidu, was getting us back our monies from companies that were owing judgment debts not related to the stadium contract.
We'll come to what the
so
attorney general has been doing.
There is a lot going on in this government, in as far as the commitment to getting to the bottom of everyone who owes us and the retrieval of those
I'll
monies.
come back to you. Tell me all about the Attorney General's achievement with regards to retrieval of money for Mother Ghana. And Kobe, yesterday on this same platform, similar platform called the Minority Caucus, and they have made admissions to the extent that they agree that they were the first to pay the 11 million euros, over 11 million euros, and that if Martin Amidu has shamed Ghanaians, they are also included. But what they fail to put across is that those who cause this judgment debt must also be, held before court. They always fall short of that. And if you ask me, I think that the sycophantic praises being heaped upon Martin Amidu is an attempt to shield their culpability. Because at the end of the day, I do not think that we would want to show interest in the stolen goods and not be mindful of the thief. Because we only have the stolen goods because there exists a thief. So if you go for the goods, go for the thief.
Well, thank you. And let me say good evening to your listeners once again. That was a very long one.
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at the opportunistic stance that are coming up as a result of the ruling by the Supreme Court. Now, those of us who had our ears to the ground knew that that was one of the major points that the late President Mills was pushing for before Martin exited office. All those matters are now water under the bridge. But the truth of the matter is that when you take a contract, you enter into a contract knowing fully well that you will need parliamentary approval because it's an international transaction. And you don't do that. And your own Attorney General, Joe Gatti, writes a memo and warns you that, look, this contract that you are entering into is null and void, and therefore we must seek parliamentary approval before we do anything. And you ignore that, then you cannot come around and make it look as though you are angels, especially when you have been made payments in federals of that contract. When my brother made reference to hypocrisy, this is the crux of the hypocrisy. Serious hypocrisy. And for me, this is just one example. There is another one. Do you remember the occasion that President Kufuor sat at the castle and declared that $75 million of Ghana's money should be written off because some company had come to plead with him that we are forgiving you the debt.
Millicom. That's
the cooperators of is it Tigo?
No, Millicom.
No, it used to be
that
Mobitel.
was
Mobitel, yes.
That was the way this country was run. When people talk about there not being systems and all that, these are typical examples of how we didn't have systems. It was a man rule, not law rule, not rule of law. It's a rule of man. a man determines that, oh, you owe Ghana money. I am the president today. The money is now mine, so I can write it off. And then sits on television and say, okay, the debt is written off. You understand? The same way, oh, I want to build a stadium. I don't care what the law says about procurement process. Law. I don't care what the law says.
This law they themselves passed. You know that. 2003.
Lawyer, you know?
I don't care what the law says about what's the name? Going for parliamentary approval. Shanghai company, get it done and get it done.
That's all.
What have you? Go get it done and get it done, and that is it. You understand? Unfortunately, all these chickens are now coming home to roost during our time. And we are faced with the reality of having to deal with it. But thankfully, we have a leadership that is committed to ensuring that this country is run based on principles and law. And therefore, we took the president took advantage of these mishaps and have instituted, how do you call it, in-depth investigations into how the things that have happened, but how they have happened. What are the lapses in the law that have created the kind of fertile ground for people to capitalize and do these things, such that those recommendations will now form a basis for us to formulate better policies and rigorous mechanisms going forward to prevent these kind of things from happening. And I'm aware that during the President Mills' time, as a decision was also taken that as a quantum of judgment debt beyond a certain quantum would never be paid without recourse to court. No matter what, no matter how justifiable you may think, you, Attorney General, may think the person's action is, let the court pronounce on it and let it be that the court has said that it should be paid. And these are the systems that we need to introduce. And for me, yes, we must try and retrieve that which has been paid wrongfully, as the Supreme Court has directed. We must try and prevent others from being paid, as the Attorney General has done with the Sweater and Socks and other such judgments that she has foiled from coming to fruition. It's all good. But beyond that, we must show that we have learned from these debacles. We must show, and how do we show it? We must show by coming forth with better policies to regulate these areas, because it's a very gray area.
Yes,
a gray area until now. Until President Mills made judgment debt a line item in the budget, which drew Parliament attention to these kind of things. Nobody in Ghana even knew there was a phenomenon called judgment debt.
Kufuor was paying.
He was paying.
There is ample evidence. On the 6th of January, 2013, 209.
209.
Yeah.
When is
January. Yes. 132 million Ghana cedis was authorized to be paid by President Kufuor, Chief of Staff Kojo Mpieni, and Joe Gate to various companies. 132 million Ghana cedis. You understand? And these were judgment debts that mostly were uncontested. Mostly. I recall in 2001.
They fall within the Batinodro category.
Okay.
That series.
Okay.
I recall in 2001 when the NDC lost power to the MPP. There was a court. There was a case in the UK court involving Ghana and a UK company. One of the lawyers for the UK company was the late Peter Alajete.
Okay.
And Ghana's position was that we had a strong case and that we were fighting that matter. As soon as MPP won, there was a change in button. They entered Nole Prosekai, and was no case. And therefore, by default, you have.
That's in the Batinodro series.
You understand?
The pink sheets. Yeah.
You understand? So obviously, these are things that have happened over the years, and with hindsight, we may be able to chase some of them and retrieve them. But even as we are chasing those and retrieving them, we must make sure that we are guided by these events to protect the pest in future, such that nobody will use those opportunities again to say, I am the Attorney General, or I work in the Attorney General's office, I have the authority of the Attorney General to enter into this negotiation, and I haven't found that, I think that the state does not have a case. Look, let's settle. And based on, and that was how it was run.
That is sad.
Somebody said, get up and say, well, I believe you don't have a case. And those were the advice that were initially given to Betty and Batudodro, which led to
that was the established tradition.
They were misled.
Well, I wouldn't say they were misled. I would say that they were not adequately informed. Because to say they were misled means that you must say somebody has a certain a guilty mind or something. But I'm saying that they were misinformed. The information was not adequate. And so that was how come Batudodro would come and say, oh, the state had no case. You understand? And also, remember that at the time Batudodro was making those comments, those were the time that even the state of Ghana does not have the document that's supposed to have.
That's interesting.
The state of Ghana, documents on contracts are supposed to have been entered by the state of Ghana. The government of Ghana did not have it.
Thanks to Kojo Mpianim because of the transition. You remember they backed out.
Yeah.
Kojo Mpianim is responsible together with President Kufuor. They are responsible for that.
So, well, I wouldn't say they withheld it. I would say that the documents could not be found.
A smooth transition would have
that
made
would be the only logical inference once again
there.
that documents were not made available. Perhaps they were withheld.
Perhaps the documents were kept somewhere where nobody knew.
In safe custody.
I wouldn't say no. These are technical matters, so I wouldn't say.
I'm only saying what is apparently logical.
You are drawing an inference. But I would say that the documents weren't available to the government, and to the extent that those documents weren't available, the incomplete document that to a man who did not know the genesis of all this, who would think that this is the totality of the document, and therefore forms an opinion on that, then that person will obviously be faulted, will go wrong. You understand? I'm not holding brief for Batudodro or anything, but I'm just being. I'm just looking at the situation
in perspective
as it transpired. So clearly, again, this is another thing that we must thank President Mills for. The assent that he granted to the Presidential Transitional Act to make it into law. Again, it is these difficulties that have informed that whole process of legislation. And that is why I'm saying that as a nation, it is not that we will not make mistakes, but how well do we learn from the mistakes? What steps do we put in such that future generations will not repeat those mistakes? And this is clearly a government that is showing you that, yes, as a nation, we have made mistakes, but we are in charge, and we want to make sure that we use those mistakes now to ensure that future generations do not inherit or come and repeat those mistakes. And that is why now you have a stringent law that dictates how presidential transitions are handled, such that we will not have a situation any longer that a minister is leaving and then he takes the document away and says, if you can't find this document, then you cannot prosecute me. If you cannot find this document, then you cannot get to the bottom of this deal. So I have taken it away. It will not happen any longer.
Let me announce the phone lines and then we'll come back. You can join in the discussion on 0302 211701. Pink sheet really is not an agenda, but that can be factored into any other matter exclusively for you.
Okay,
so we go that quickly. Okay, but before we even do all of that, let's just go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, the discussion in the studio continues. Stay with me. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. You can now join in the discussion on the announced phone line 030221170124. Keep the calls coming. Prince, you tell us, because it looks like, indeed it is, not that it looks like, the Attorney General has been doing very well in retrieving monies for the state way before this court ruling in the case of Martin Amidu.
Yeah, under the NDC too, or the new NDC, there have been a number of attorney generals, and I think it's important to put it in order. Before Martin Amidu, and I want to start from Martin Amidu, there was Betty Mould, Idrisu. And if you recall, Betty Mould had been given instructions by the presidency, then Professor Mills, to do a claim of not just the judgment that was in context, but all judgment that were in the purview of the Attorney General's Department to look into, following investigations by IOCO and the findings thereof. Okay. Now, so there was some work being done before Martin Amidu came. He was given the same brief. He was in office for over a year. So what did Martin Amidu do in 1 year? I think that's something that he wants to tell Ghanaians.
Yeah.
Now, if he did nothing also, that's something he wants to tell Ghanaians. Because in that 1 year, he did not get his judgment. Then he went. Not because he was doing something to do with this case, but because of some action that he took independent of this case, as in his personal conduct.
But Attorney General claims to support in terms of research.
Yes. Then there came another Attorney General, Benjamin Kumbo. It's important because this Attorney General should not be lumped as though she's been in office for a very long time. This current government assumed office on 7th January 2013.
Hold on there. Let me pick this call and I'll come back to you. Hello, Rashid.
Yeah, hello?
Hello, Rashid.
Yeah, please, I'm calling from Tamale.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to contribute to your program.
Go ahead.
Okay, my problem is I want your communication team to change the one you bring today for newsstand. For NDC, that guy is not doing
News what? Newsstand?
Newsstand, yeah, in the morning.
Who was there? Who was there?
I don't know his name, but the way he's not doing good. Change it.
Rashid, it's going to be difficult for me to help you if you don't know the identity of this person.
You can
I mean, I can always do, but I need you to. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, he should know who he's referring to. I mean, you can't make such a blanket statement. I have that Alex on the line. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I thank you for the good work that you are doing.
We appreciate it.
Everything about. I want to just send a short message to MPP and then Amidu. They better tell their old man to go and have some sleep. Whilst His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is ruling, because Ghana and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is the best man for Ghana in this time. So 2021 JM, the best. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Hello, I have Ilyasu, my final caller. Ilyasu.
Thank you for having me on your show. Good evening.
Good evening.
I really can appreciate the difficulty NDC government is going through now.
It depends on.
This is typical clutching on straws.
It depends on the issues.
Like a spoiled child. Today you ask the child out of this. Tomorrow he or she is seen doing another thing. Yesterday, government issued a statement. Only God knows the reasons behind issuance of that statement in trying to share in the credit of Martin Amidu's judgment. Today, they are gradually shifting the goalpost, saying that why didn't Martin Amidu include in the raid the Shanghai group? Why did the government indeed assisted Martin Amidu? Why didn't the government include in the raid
Eliasu, I have another question for you. But if indeed Martin Amidu was fighting a just cause without any political undertones, did anything at all, prevented him from including the same Shanghai? Because the same Shanghai also has both, fault. It did not have the procurement processes backing nor parliamentary approval.
If the government also indeed, true to eat their word, if the government indeed assisted Martin Amidu with research, what prevented the government from including the Shanghai group into the Martin Amidu?
I acknowledge that is a fair question. Perhaps you might want to do the same.
So, of course. So, we are talking about somebody who has taken upon himself to go and fight and making sure that we fight for this matter. Government should be talking about how to retrieve the money, which is most supreme to us at this time.
The government has been doing that. Elias, government has been retrieving monies. Sweater and socks. You know all about that.
This particular money.
It will be done.
Has government put
but the judgment, Elias, the judgment just came about a week ago, and in international transaction, you know, and all that. But I just needed to provide information. Yesterday,
and spokespersons for government.
Elias,
what measures have you taken in place?
Listen to the answers. Listen to the answers. Yesterday on this same platform, Minority Caucus admissions were made to a very great extent that indeed the MPP is fully culpable in this payment of 25 million euros to the companies. And so it is important that you acknowledge that there are people who have caused this, and what this government's responsibility is to continue what it has been doing. I just made an example. Sweater and Socks has retrieved money from Sweater and Socks, and they are continuing to do that. So thank you very much, Eliasu, for your views. We truly appreciate it. Yeah, Prince, you want to tell Elias what government has been doing to retrieve the money?
Elias, like the many Ghanaians out there who are listening, are aware that Martin Amidu was in office for some time, and then he would tell us. I think he is the best person to tell us what he did. I won't speak for Martin Amidu, but at least Benjamin Kumbo filed processes. And this new Attorney General assumed office after John Dramani Mahama had been made president and had named his ministers, because she is a minister of John Dramani Mahama. His tenure of office has been led about 6 months. So this Attorney General has not been in office for more than 4 months. In that time, she has already started getting monies back, like the Sweater and Socks that we've been told, and several others are in the queue. Now, you see, the road to Kumasi is now being done very well, and there are several diversions. You can go to win a case by starting from the lower courts all the way to the Supreme Court. In fact, there are cases filed at the high courts, including the civil and criminal cases of Boyome and several others, Isvoton and others. Now, what Martin Amidu did, was that he truncated or he sidestepped some steps by jumping straight to the Supreme Court for interpretation. And it's only the Supreme Court that can give interpretation. When the Supreme Court...
That's the exclusive jurisdiction.
Exactly. Once their jurisdiction is evoked, the High Court will have to wait for the Supreme Court to do its work. And so it's not as though Martin Amidu has done something, spectacular. What he did was to hold the hands of the Attorney General and the lower courts whilst the Supreme Court gave the verdict. So what happened in that instance was that the Attorney General, in support of Martin Amidu, did not say, well, Martin Amidu filed his whatever case and joined the Attorney General's department as a defendant. But the Attorney General did not have anything against what Martin Amidu was doing.
He was seeking interpretation.
Exactly. And so the Attorney General, when he says, she says, or the department says that it supported Martin Amidu, it did not go and stand in Martin Amidu's corner and say this and that. It provided things that would make it possible for the Supreme Court to arrive at the decision that they arrived at. And so that decision was something that was aided by the Attorney General's department. And I think that it's important to put on record, finally, that it's not about trying to share in the glory. It's not about the glory at all. It is about securing the monies of Ghana everywhere. So every little money, every big money, whether it's Akwamu chiefs, whether it is Napo's sub-chief, in that land, all those judgment debts will be looked into. And if there's any dime of Ghana missing, the Attorney General is committed to get it.
Kobe, you wanted to say something briefly about the pink sheet, if you do.
But before then, let me.
I'm afraid you won't have much time.
We'll have an extension. We'll have an extension.
I'm really afraid we've run out of time.
It's important to mention Shanghai and all that. But I think that the principle is that which must operate. To the extent that the Supreme Court has made a pronouncement that establishes a certain principle, one doesn't have to take a specific case to court again unless there is a certain challenge and all that. So once the principle has been established, I think that we can use that basis to
cascade,
institute actions that has to be taken in regards to those matters. But on this pink sheet matter, you will recall that on Tuesday, the Daily Guide did the publication that Atuguba's missing pink sheets found, and that certain box containing pink sheets were missing, and that it has been found, and that if it is counted, it is they are expected to be 2,000 in 2013 from the Supreme Court, and signed. Let me finish.
Copy briefly because
and signed by Millicent Boatin, Secretary to the Presiding Judge. It was brought to our attention that the presiding judge's copies of exhibits for the series range MBP 3836 to MBP 4796 was not included in the exhibits that have been brought to our representatives to be used in the cross-check exercise. The letter further stated that exhibits MBP 3836 to MBP 4796 and exhibit MBL 1 to 357 were retrieved from the presiding judge's office for verification by the Supreme Court Registrar on May 2013. Now, what they have said here is that they have gotten that thing through the registrar and that they have checked it because I would have read the whole thing.
Yeah,
now
next week we would have a special edition.
No, wait. The daily guy said that when that thing is counted, it's going to be amounting to 2,000. Now that thing has already been counted by KPMG. This is it.
8,000.
And no, it is 786 in that box.
Do you know what I want us to do?
786
on Tuesday.
Not 2,000.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no way they will get up to the 11,000 they claim.
No, there is it. 786.
So, I'm sure the cameras can capture that.
Cameras,
so
please capture.
What we will do is that on Tuesday we will try to go into the details of the matter. Obviously, we've run out of time. It's unfortunate.
The Shanghai
it's unfortunate that I mean, Osafumafu, after signing the Shanghai agreement,
he signed a German agreement that he didn't
come
understand.
and answer. Jogati, Osafumafu, Obiamwa, you all have questions to answer, and we'll be here Tuesday, inshallah, God willing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the program. Bye bye.